In this video, I want to put you onto, in my opinion, the best VSTs for making R&B beats in 2023, and we're starting off with my personal big three: Omnisphere, Analog Lab, and Kontakt. Now, beautiful people, there won't be a lot of previews in this video, but I am inviting you to check out the previous 3 videos that I did on Omnisphere, Analog Lab, and Kontakt to see just what these are about. But let's actually talk about Omnisphere. I've said it once and I've said it before, Omnisphere really is the only VST that you need for trap production or R&B production. I'm saying this because Omnisphere has a lot of industry-grade presets that have genuinely found their way into top-notch productions that you hear on the radio today. From bells to pads to keys to strings to synths to textures to basses, Omnisphere is rich in all of that. So it's definitely a VST that always finds its way in my workflow one way or another, whether it's the Growler Moog bass, whether it's the Go Summer Keys patch. Go and check out the video that I did on Omnisphere and orient yourself, really make a conscious decision, because it's definitely a must-have VST. For a lot of people, it's a haven for presets, but a lot of other people think it's a sound designer's dream because it has such a powerful engine to create sounds from scratch from. And the cool thing about Omnisphere is the internet is rife with banks and patches full of presets that you can use in your production, whether it's Summer Walker type beats, Janae Aiko type beats, Bryson Tiller type beats, Party Next Door type beats, Division type beats, R&B samples for Drake. You can make basically anything with it. It is definitely a must-have in your workflow. Analog Lab is another one of those heavy hitters that always for some reason finds its way in my workflow. Now, the cool thing about Analog Lab is, yes, it does give you access to a couple of acoustic sounds such as the Piano V and the Clavinet and the Whirly and an electric piano and all of that, but it's a haven for anybody that wants an analog sound like Nami, Sonder, Cope the Truth, Frank Dukes, Q Beats, basically anything analog sounding. Analog Lab is definitely where it's at. Now, me personally, I transitioned into the V collection, so the Analog Lab is kind of a gateway into buying the V collection, and I'm making perfect use of that. But if you just want, a good VST that gives you a ton of industry grade presets that you can add expansions to, Analog Lab definitely has you covered. If you're more of a sound designer, go for Omnisphere. But if you like presets, then you might be having to make a difficult choice between both. I like using them both, and I do not regret buying them both. But to keep it a stack with y'all, I'm singing praise about Omnisphere and Analog Lab, but the one VST that I will always stick to, that always saves me when I'm in a pinch, is Kontakt. Now, the cool thing about Kontakt is they have those amazing stock libraries that you get once you buy it with Complete. But the cool thing about Kontakt is you can keep expanding on it using the libraries provided to you by Native Instruments, the Play series, which are amazing, such as 40's very own keys, Glaze, Cloud Supply, Hybrid keys, Lo-Fi keys, and there's a couple of other ones that I seem to forget, such as Analog Dreams. But there's also a lot of third-party stuff that you can buy. I mean, if you want to go for guitar, there's Impact Soundworks, there's Ample Sounds, there's Orange Tree Samples, or you can go for the guitar libraries from Native Instruments, such as Electric Sunburst, Electric Mint, Session Basses, Session Guitarists, all of that good stuff. Basically, any instrument that you think you need, there is a Kontakt bank for that. So you can just keep expanding. It's basically a big modular engine, and I love it, and I feel that it is a must-have for producers that want to make R&B. So when it comes to those 3, they are definitely in my S tier of VSTs that I use based on how often I use them. But there's a lot of praise to say about the A tier instruments, and we're heading into that now, starting with Pigments. Now, if y'all watched the video that I did where I made a new jack swing beat with Arturia Pigments, you can see that Pigments is definitely nice with the usable sounds for R&B beats. I would definitely recommend it to you, but the only way you're actually gonna get everything out of that is if you're actually into sound designing. I mean, it has wavetable synthesis, granular synthesis, analog synthesis, and I really love the graphical user interface. I feel that in terms of wanting to get into sound design, it has made this interface so accessible that it's easier to understand, and delving into that really gets you everything that you can get out of Pigments. But nonetheless, if you're just looking for Pigments for presets that you can easily tweak, add some effects to, play with the LFO and the modulation, oh yeah, that's definitely way up there. I didn't expect to have Roland ZENOLOGY on my list, but hear me out. I was trying to make some 90s R&B samples and a little bit of Plug and B, because I'm really fucking with Plug and B, and I wanted to get a Roland JV1080. I didn't get the 1080, but I did get ZENOLOGY, and it's blown me away in terms of the usable sounds for 90s R&B and Plug and B. A lot of cool FM sounds, a lot of cool sounds that are really reminiscent of the Korg M1 and say the Yamaha DX7. So I really like it for that specific sound. It's just a preset browser. You can tweak tweak them just a little bit, but I feel that it does an amazing job at giving you access to vintage sounds that you can use in 90s R&B beat, late 80s R&B beat, new jack swing, and all that good stuff. Even some early 2000 R&B beats, you can definitely use it for that. Now, I've got both Serum and Vital on my list up in the A tier because I think that they are genuinely powerful synthesizers that are very much usable. I've messed around with Serum a little bit. It absolutely fucked my CPU, so I decided to go for Vital instead, and I used Vital for a little while. I really liked it. I really think it was accessible, especially since it's free and you can keep expanding on that. You can go for a subscription model, or you can fork over the 75 to get a lot more wavetables to experiment with. If you're actually into creating your own sounds, which I would still definitely recommend so that you're not surrendering yourself to the mercy of presets, you know, Vital is a good way to go. If you want something that is definitely industry standard, which definitely has a lot more banks available as well, go for Serum. Either way, I want to emphasize that if you want to create your sounds from scratch, these are two both amazing picks that you definitely should look into. So we're heading down into my B tier of instruments, and I want to say that these are all still amazing VSTs. It's just that I don't use them a lot because to me they fill a kind of niche function. I mostly use the Korg M1 when I'm trying to make late 80s or 90s R&B type beats, which is not often, but I really love to do it. I especially love the keys that you have in the M1. You know, I really love that classic Korg interface, which is what you also see in the Triton, which I use when I'm trying to make more late 80s and early 2000s up until the 2010 R&B type beats. I think that definitely fills a gap, a niche that, you know, I really like. And then there's Expand, which I feel that is kind of a lesser version of ZENOLOGY in terms of what it offers, but if you're looking for vintage sounds at a very affordable price, I mean, the times that I've seen Expand go on sale for like $5, I can't even count on my fingers, but often it goes on sale. But you know, acquire it by any means necessary. It is a good VST to have if you're looking for some vintage sounds. So now we're down to the C tier, and once again it is about how often I use them, not how good they are. But I'm trying to fuck with Sublab a lot more. You know, usually when I go for bass, I go for basses from the Mini V, or I go for the Growler Moog bass in Omnisphere, or I go for like a regular sub bass from a Korg instrument or ZENOLOGY, or just an 808 sample. But if I want to make my custom 808s or my custom subs, I go for Sublab, and I'm trying to do that a little bit more because there is something about being able to customize your bass, add your distortion to it, play with the waveform a little bit just to get something that's really fitted to your liking. On the other hand, there's Love-Fi. Now the cool thing about the Love-Fi is that it has a lot of sounds which are usable for R&B, mostly because a lot of that synthwave sound has found its way into R&B, say with The Weeknd, or say alternative R&B artists such as Division, perhaps Roy Woods, maybe SZA. So there's definitely a use case for all of that. I simply don't use it enough to put it higher on the list, but we'll see what happens when we make it to 2024. And with that being discussed, beautiful folks, I hope that you have enough guidance to go and get the VSTs that you need in 2023 to make some dope R&B beats. I would love to hear which VSTs you end up getting for yourself and how you've experimented with them, and I'd love to hear the beats that you make with them. Either way, beautiful folks, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see y'all in the next, where we will be discussing the best FX plugins for R&B in 2023. So y'all stay tuned. Peace.